We came out of that conversation by the Standing Committee on Finance and Parliament around the Competition Commission's probe into claims of rand manipulation. Motheo, these are some of the issues that you and I talked about off air. The EFF's Floyd Shivambu talking about an entire refund, not just a paltry 23 million rand fine to Standard Bank, which many of the parliamentarians have said is nothing short of a slap on the wrist. Some of the questions that have been raised there, how does the system not pick this up? Were there no audits that were conducted over a 6-year period? So we're talking about 2006 to 2013. So obviously somebody was sleeping on the job, one would imagine.
Well, this is a very tough one, Hugo, because during those years, as the FSCA was saying in this particular meeting, when I was listening off air, that we didn't have the stringent rules that we have now. Like the Reserve Bank Governor, was saying yesterday, that they've joined the rest of the world in the FX code, the foreign exchange code, to try and have more stringent rules around some of the unscrupulous behavior that we're seeing from traders. They've joined that particular code, written up to that particular code, but we still need more stringent rules, more prosecution for these types of white-collar crimes, if one can put it that way. And that's what the parliamentarians are actually arguing here, to say, look, we do understand the Competition Commission's job of making sure that there's fair competition in the market, whether it's financial markets, whether it's the price of bread, or even in the construction industry, which have done very well. But the issue here is around the stipulated section of 59(2) of the Competition Act, where the tribunal always imposes a 10% on revenues of whatever company that has found to be in wrongdoing. Now, that's always great, but that's enough. That's the only teeth that the Competition Commission has. They can't prosecute further, so they'll fine a company to not do that again. And of course, that always results into a slap on the wrist. And for this particular one, the years that it happened, the amount of banks that are involved, the magnitude of money that was moving between these banks, one imagines over these years, is into the billions, trillions of rands. And that's why we need to get the answers of how much was moved, and also who's going to be paying back the country's fiscus
well, I suppose
for this.
I mean, it almost speaks into President Cyril Ramaphosa's phrase where he called GBV a pandemic. Now, this corruption, obviously, if we call it that, is an equal measure of a pandemic, and should be dealt with, because there's so much pressure when government is corrupt. Now that it's the private sector that's in the same position, over a protracted period, a little more needs to be done. So I'd imagine that it's sitting sitting in the hands of parliamentarians, so it offers them an opportunity, I suppose, to relook that 10% that the Competition Commission is obliged to charge. But let's talk a little bit about what measures may have been put in place since this period from 2006 to 2013 that would prevent a similar event happening if you're in the know.
Well, the monitoring is there now. During those years, we didn't have it as strong. The FSCA has it, the SARB has it in different ways. Today, Olano Makubela, who is the retirement fund supervision at the FSCA, was talking around the different regulations that they are trying to work on with the Reserve Bank. It's an ongoing process, but it's very important and quite complex to follow some of these stories, because you get into derivatives, you get into rand manipulation, rand dollar pairs, some of the jargon that the regular South African will not understand. So you need special expertise for people to monitor such books. Actually, when I was speaking to Andre Cilliers, which you had spoken to earlier, he says the type of person that you need to get in terms of making this a watertight case would be the chartered accountants, the guys that can actually, the bean counters that can count the magnitude of the crime that has happened here and who did what, and try to decipher some of this, the financial market world that we can't all unpack very easily. And that's why it's so hard to regulate, because the guys that are on the other end, the corporate side that are working the system, don't have anybody looking over their shoulder as a regulator often enough, and people skilled enough to find them prosecuted.
Now, when you talk about fining an organization such as Standard Bank 23 million rand, I mean, we have emphasized that it is very little. They're not going to feel it. But there's also talk about taking this a little bit further, making this a criminal case. Is there room to criminalize, or certainly to punish the individuals that were involved? Because it's one thing for a bank to say it wasn't us, it was individuals within the bank, but they've enjoyed the profits. And when we talk numbers, I think we try to come up with figures, but they potentially could run into trillions of rand. The numbers that were made every single day at the time that all these banks or individuals in the banks colluded over a 6-year period.
Remember, it's not easy. Let's not try to bash the Competition Commission here. They've done the job, they've done the legwork of finding out that this was actually happening. But they can only do so much, which is why you find that they've settled with some of these banks, including Citigroup and Standard Chartered, so that they can get some of the insider information to make their case strong. And if their case is strong enough, and should they be successful in prosecuting some of the rest of the banks that are involved, the rest of the 23 that are involved, then you might find we are in a better position to prosecute, because we do know we have a case here and we have sufficient evidence to bury some of these guys that were involved. Because remember, these are companies that have war chests. Trillions of dollars in war chests. They could have a legal battle go on for 20, 25 years. So you need to have a watertight case, and one that will make sure that if you do decide to go for prosecution, maybe as a Reserve Bank or as a government, that you have enough information. And that's why a lot is tied to this Competition Commission probe.
Now, you talked a little bit about the Reserve Bank Governor, Lesetja Kganyago, and one of the things that the Reserve Bank has said is that it will not be, in fact, it's non-interference in the Competition Commission's probe. So let's talk about the role of the Reserve Bank in a matter such as this, because if they seem to have shied away from it.
There was a lot of questions around why they were so silent when the story resurfaced again when we heard those hearings last week. And we found out that answer when Lesetja Kganyago said yesterday that he's already been in the works with the Competition Commission. They've approached him to say, look, you have the expertise, you would know what's going on here. Give us some of the information and some of the skills that you have to help us probe in this case, which he says the SARB has already done, and he's happy to let the Competition Commission run with the probe, which gives me a little bit of confidence that maybe they know there is a case there. They just don't want to comment on it. But they've given him all the information that they can share with them. But remembering the mandate of the Reserve Bank is to protect the local unit, the rand. And of course, they would have key interest in this particular case, and I'm sure they will be doing everything in their power to help, make sure that the Competition Commission is successful in this particular probe.
Motheo Khoaripe, appreciate your time as we converse on the SARB issue. In fact, the Competition Commission's probe into that issue around 30